You saw something you shouldn't have, sweetheart. Now we need to make sure you forget it.
Grant Holloway placed his Glock on the rooftop ledge. 11:47 p.m. The gun gleamed under emergency lights, catching the glow of the city 40 floors below. The summer heat pressed down on the concrete, thick and suffocating even at this hour. No breeze, no relief, no witnesses. Claire Donovan stood 15 feet away, her back against the concrete wall of the rooftop access structure. Behind Grant, 4 security guards spread in a semicircle, blocking every exit. The helipad sat empty to her left, its landing lights dark. The fire escape door to her right, locked from the inside, access code known only to senior staff. 40 stories down, Seattle's downtown district sparkled with oblivious life. Traffic flowing, restaurants closing, people heading home to safety. Up here, there was only concrete, steel, and 5 men who had been told to make a problem disappear. 5 against 1? Claire said. Her voice didn't shake. It carried across the rooftop with a strange calm that made Grant's eyes narrow slightly. Finally, fair odds. Grant laughed, the sound harsh against the night air. Funny, corporate sent you up here for a routine security check. You actually thought that was real? He gestured to the guards flanking him. These men are here to discuss your future at Silverstone Capital. Or rather, the lack of one. 13 minutes. That was all Claire needed. At midnight, the building's automated lockdown system would activate, logging every door access, every camera blind spot, every anomaly. Police dispatch would receive automatic alerts for any rooftop movement after hours. Legacy protocol from a suicide attempt 3 years ago that management couldn't quietly erase. T-minus 13 minutes until the system logged exactly who was up here and exactly what happened. If Claire could survive 13 minutes, help would come. Grant stepped forward, his boots scraping concrete. He was a big man, 6'2", maybe 240 pounds of muscle gone slightly to fat around the middle. His security uniform was crisp despite the late hour, his badge glinting. Holloway, security supervisor. 8 years at Silverstone, according to the employee database Claire had reviewed when she'd first arrived 6 weeks ago. Former Army MP, according to his personnel file, trained in restraint techniques, firearms, crowd control. What his file didn't mention, whether he'd ever killed anyone. That transfer document you photographed, Grant continued, his voice dropping to something almost conversational, almost friendly. Document number 847392-CC. $8.2 million wired to offshore accounts. You thought you were being clever, taking that picture, uploading it to your cloud storage. He smiled without warmth. We know exactly what you found, Miss Donovan, and now we need you to delete it. Phone, cloud, laptop, everything. And if I don't? Claire kept her posture relaxed, her breathing even. Every second she kept him talking was another second closer to midnight. Then we make sure this looks like a tragic accident. Grant's smile widened, revealing teeth that had been whitened too many times. New girl, working late, stressed about fitting in, fell from the rooftop. Could happen to anyone. He glanced at the guards. 5 witnesses will say you were distraught, that you jumped, that we tried to stop you. Claire's eyes flicked to the men behind Grant. All armed, all trained, all following orders from someone higher up the chain. Someone who'd decided that $8.2 million was worth more than one junior analyst's life. What they didn't know, she'd been trained by people who made Army MPs look like shopping mall rent-a-cops. Grant reached for her shoulder, his hand massive, fingers spread to grip. Claire moved. 4 seconds. That's all it took. Grant's hand closed on empty air as Claire sidestepped, her movement so fluid it seemed choreographed. She caught his extended wrist with her left hand, applied pressure to a specific nerve cluster the Israeli Defense Forces had mapped decades ago, and used his forward momentum against him. Grant's face went from smug confidence to shocked pain in the span of a heartbeat. His knees buckled. Claire twisted, redirecting his mass toward the concrete. And Grant Holloway, 45 years old, 240 pounds, 8 years of security experience, hit the rooftop face first with a sound like a meat slab dropped from height. The Glock skittered across concrete, spinning 30 feet away into shadow. Claire released his wrist and stepped back, her breathing still calm, still measured. Blood trickled from a cut on her knuckles where they'd scraped against Grant's watch band. She didn't wipe it away. The 4 guards froze, their hands hovering near their holsters, but not quite drawing. They'd expected resistance, maybe some screaming, some pleading, some futile attempts to run. They hadn't expected their supervisor to be face down and groaning in under 5 seconds. One of them whispered, "What the hell just happened?" Right now, if that detail about Claire taking down Grant in 4 seconds got your attention, hit the like button for this video and subscribe so we know to dig deeper into how this story unfolds. If you think it's worth it, tap the thanks button once. This is just the beginning. Also, quick question. Where are you listening to this from? Drop a comment and let us know what city you're in. Claire stood over Grant's prone form, her chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. The cut on her knuckles stung. Her shoulder ached where she'd braced against his weight. Small prices. She'd paid worse. "Let me tell you," she said quietly, her eyes moving from guard to guard, calculating distances and reaction times. "What happened 8 hours ago?" The guards didn't move. Grant groaned, trying to push himself up, but his left arm wasn't cooperating. The nerve strike had temporarily paralyzed the limb. He'd regain function in maybe 10 minutes, but for now, he was neutralized. Claire needed them to understand that this wasn't going to end the way they'd been promised. 8 hours ago, she continued, her voice carrying across the rooftop, I was sitting at my desk, cubicle 317, 35th floor, junior analyst position, 6 weeks into a job I thought was normal corporate work, reviewing quarterly reports, flagging discrepancies, running numbers through accounting software. 8 hours ago. The memory was sharp, detailed, every moment catalogued with the kind of precision that came from years of training, where missing a single detail could mean the difference between mission success and body bags. 3:47 p.m. Claire had been reviewing transfer reports, the kind of tedious work that made up 90% of junior analyst duties at Silverstone Capital. Page after page of wire transfers, account reconciliations, authorization signatures. The office was quiet that late in the afternoon. Most employees left by 5, but Claire had developed a habit of staying until 6 or 7, partly to prove herself as the new hire, partly because she had nowhere else to be. Then she'd seen it. Transfer document 84739-2-CC. Wire transfer authorization for $8.2 million to Grand Cayman account. Number 447-1-998-CC. Destination: Hayes Family Trust Holdings. Purpose: quarterly dividend distribution. Date: June 14th, 11:47 p.m. Authorized by Nathan Cross, Senior Vice President of Operations. The signature looked wrong. Claire had pulled up Nathan Cross's personnel file, accessed his signature database from the HR system. Standard signatures from contracts, NDAs, employment agreements. She compared the document to verified samples. The loops in the N were different, rounder, less angular. The pressure points didn't match. Nathan Cross's verified signatures always had a distinctive hook on the final S in Cross, a flourish he'd apparently developed in college and never changed. This signature had no hook. The W in Cross, had an extra curve that never appeared in his authenticated documents. Forged. Badly. Claire checked the timestamp. 11:47 p.m., 3 nights ago. She cross-referenced with building security logs, the database she technically wasn't supposed to have access to, but had quietly obtained during her second week, when she'd realized Silverstone's IT security was embarrassingly lax. Nathan Cross's keycard, last scan at 6:15 p.m., main lobby exit. Security camera footage showed him leaving the building in his BMW at 6:22 p.m. Traffic cameras confirmed his vehicle heading north toward his Mercer Island home at 6:31 p.m. He wasn't in the building when this transfer was authorized. Couldn't have been. Claire had felt her pulse quicken then, that old familiar sensation from her previous life. The moment when pieces clicked into place. When a pattern emerged from chaos. When you realized you'd found something someone had tried very hard to hide. She'd photographed the document with her phone, uploaded it to encrypted cloud storage, a habit she'd maintained even though she wasn't supposed to need those skills anymore. 3 different backup locations, private server, commercial cloud service, and a dead drop folder accessed through Tor routing. Redundancy had saved her life twice before. She wasn't going to get sloppy just because she wore business casual now instead of tactical gear. Then she'd kept digging. The Hayes Family Trust holdings. She'd run the name through corporate databases, financial records, public registries. Shell Company, registered in Cayman Islands, established 7 years ago. Directors listed as a law firm in Georgetown that specialized in offshore asset protection. Beneficial ownership, obscured through 3 layers of holding companies. But Claire had tools most junior analysts didn't. Software she'd acquired during her contractor days, programs that traced financial networks through blockchain analysis and dark web monitoring. 15 minutes of searching revealed that Hayes Family Trust Holdings had received wire transfers from Silverstone Capital totaling $47 million over the past 3 years. $47 million, not 8.2. This wasn't a one-time theft. This was systematic embezzlement running for years. Claire had been compiling her evidence, screenshots, database queries, financial flow charts, when her computer screen had flickered. A notification appeared. System Administrator Alert. Your activity is being monitored. She'd looked up to see a security camera mounted in the corner of the ceiling, its lens tracking her position. 60 seconds later, her office phone rang. Grant Holloway's voice. Miss Donovan, this is security. We need you to come to the 40th floor rooftop for a routine check regarding your after-hours access. Standard protocol for new employees working past 8 p.m. Please use the north elevator. Claire had known immediately that nothing about this was standard, but she'd also known that running would only confirm whatever suspicions had been triggered. So she'd saved her files one last time, sent a time-delayed email to 3 different addresses with instructions to forward all evidence to the FBI if she didn't cancel it within 24 hours, and taken the elevator to the 40th floor. The guards had been waiting, polite at first, then less polite. Then they'd escorted her up one more flight of stairs to the rooftop, and Grant had locked the door behind them with an access code, 4739, that only senior staff were supposed to know. Now, standing over Grant's prone form while 4 armed men debated whether to draw their weapons, Claire finished her explanation. So that's what happened 8 hours ago. I found evidence of embezzlement. Someone noticed. And you 5 were sent to make sure I didn't tell anyone." Grant finally managed to push himself to sitting position, cradling his left arm. His face was flushed, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool night air. You're not just an analyst." "No," Claire agreed. "I'm not." She'd grown up in Oak Ridge, a small town in Oregon where everyone knew everyone, and secrets were impossible to keep. Her mother had worked as a financial auditor for a regional investment firm, until she'd discovered that her boss was running a Ponzi scheme. Lisa Donovan had reported it to regulators, testified in court, done everything right. The firm's executives had destroyed her, blacklisted her from every financial institution in the Pacific Northwest, sued her for defamation, draining her savings on legal fees, harassed her family until Lisa Donovan had a nervous breakdown and spent 6 months in psychiatric care. She'd died when Claire was 19. Heart attack, officially. But Claire knew the truth. Her mother's heart had been broken long before it stopped. Claire had joined the army at 20, served 4 years, demonstrated aptitude for languages and tactical operations. They'd recruited her for specialized work, the kind that didn't appear on official records, the kind that sent her to Tel Aviv for 2 years of training with Israeli Defense Forces instructors who taught Krav Maga not as sport, but as survival. 4 more years as a contractor. Operations in 6 countries. Targets that ranged from trafficking networks to terrorist financing cells. Claire had learned to blend in, to look harmless, to let people underestimate her right up until the moment she needed them to understand exactly how wrong they'd been. She'd left that life 2 years ago. Retired at 26. Tired of violence. Tired of lies. Tired of watching good people die while bad people hid behind lawyers and shell companies. She'd wanted something normal. Boring. Safe. But when Silverstone Capital had posted a junior analyst position, background in military service preferred, attention to detail essential, financial analysis experience welcomed, Claire had seen an opportunity, a way to use her skills without the bloodshed. A way to catch people like the ones who'd destroyed her mother, but through legal channels, through evidence and courts and justice. She'd thought she could do it quietly, document the fraud, report it to proper authorities, let the system work. She'd been naive. Grant struggled to his feet, his left arm hanging useless at his side. The 4 guards had spread out now, forming a wider semicircle, hands on their holsters, but not yet drawing. They were waiting for Grant's order, trying to understand what they'd walked into. "Israeli Defense Forces," Grant said, recognition dawning in his eyes. "That move you used, that's IDF Krav Maga. Nerve strike to the radial cluster." He shook his head slowly. "You're not just some analyst who got lucky. You're trained." 4 years contractor work after my army discharge, Claire confirmed. Specialized operations, the kind that don't appear in personnel files. She looked at each guard in turn. "The question now is, do you 4 want to be part of this?" Grant took money to look the other way. "Someone higher up told him to handle me quietly. But you—" She gestured to them. "You're just following orders. You don't know what you're protecting." One of the guards, younger than the others, maybe late 20s, shifted his weight nervously. "Grant, what's she talking about? You said this was just a routine." "Shut up, Rivera," Grant snapped. $47 million, Claire said, her voice cutting through the tension. "That's what Hayes Family Trust Holdings has stolen from Silverstone Capital over 3 years. Someone inside this company has been systematically embezzling money, falsifying documents, forging signatures. I found proof, and now I'm supposed to disappear." The guards exchanged glances. Claire could see doubt creeping in, questions forming. Good. Doubt meant hesitation. Hesitation meant time. T-9 minutes until lockdown. Grant's phone buzzed. He pulled it from his pocket with his good hand, glanced at the screen, and his face went pale. It's the HR director, Warren Bishop. Claire's attention sharpened. Warren Bishop. She'd met him twice during her onboarding process. Friendly man, late 50s, graying hair, warm smile. He'd personally welcomed her to Silverstone, mentioned that he'd reviewed her application himself, said the company valued employees with military backgrounds. "Answer it," Claire said. "Put it on speaker." Grant hesitated, then swiped to accept the call. "Yeah." "Grant," Warren Bishop's voice came through clear and measured, with that distinctive tone of someone accustomed to authority. "Status report. Is the situation contained?" Grant looked at Claire, at the guards, at his useless arm. "We're having some complications." A pause. Then, "Complications? Define complications." "The target has training we weren't briefed on. Military background, combat skills. Is she neutralized or not?" Warren's voice had hardened. Claire stepped forward, raising her voice so the phone's microphone would catch it. "Mr. Bishop, this is Claire Donovan. I think we should talk about Hayes Family Trust Holdings and where $47 million went." Silence on the line. 5 seconds. 10. The kind of silence that stretched taut like a wire about to snap. When Warren spoke again, his voice had shifted, still measured, still calm, but with an undertone Claire recognized from her contractor days. The sound of someone recalculating, adjusting strategy mid-operation. "Miss Donovan, I'm glad you're safe. It sounds like there's been a serious misunderstanding. Grant, stand down immediately. I'm coming up to resolve this personally." The line went dead. Grant stared at his phone, confusion and something like fear crossing his face. "He's coming here?" Claire's instincts flared warning. Warren Bishop responding in person. This quickly, at this hour. That wasn't the behavior of an innocent HR director trying to de-escalate. That was the behavior of someone who needed to control the situation directly. One of the guards, the older one, maybe 50 with gray stubble and tired eyes, spoke up. "Grant, I didn't sign up for this. If there's embezzlement involved, if we're covering up corporate fraud—" "Nobody's covering up anything," Grant said, but his voice lacked conviction. His left arm was starting to regain sensation, fingers twitching as nerves reconnected. "We were told she was a security threat, that she'd been accessing restricted files, potentially stealing proprietary information." "And you believe that?" Claire asked. "A junior analyst, 6 weeks on the job, somehow decides to commit corporate espionage? You didn't think that sounded convenient?" Grant opened his mouth, closed it. He didn't have a good answer. Claire pressed her advantage. "How much did they pay you, Grant? To look the other way, to handle problems that arose. I saw deposits in your bank records, $5,000 a month for the past 8 months. Regular as clockwork, always from accounts that trace back to offshore holdings." That got the guards' attention. All 4 of them turned to stare at Grant, whose face had gone from pale to red. That's none of your business. That's private." "Nothing's private when it's evidence of conspiracy," Claire shot back. "You took money to participate in fraud. That makes you an accessory. And now you've committed assault, kidnapping, and attempted murder. Those are felonies, Grant. Decades in prison." Rivera, the young guard, backed away. "I want no part of this. I'm security. Not whatever this is." "Nobody's going anywhere," Grant snarled, finally pulling his service weapon with his good hand. The Glock he'd placed on the ledge was still 30 feet away, but he had a backup piece in an ankle holster. He aimed it at Rivera. "You follow orders, or you're part of the problem." Claire evaluated distances. Grant was 15 feet away, weapon raised, but not pointed at her yet. The 4 guards were spread in an arc, 2 on each side. The fire escape door was still locked. The helipad was exposed. No cover. 40 floors down, sirens wailed. Probably unrelated. Probably routine Seattle emergency services. But the sound reminded Claire that help existed somewhere below. That civilization and law and order were just an elevator ride away. She needed to stall until Warren Bishop arrived. Needed to see his face, hear his voice, understand exactly who was pulling the strings. Because Grant was a pawn, that was obvious now. Someone had paid him to be violent when needed, but he didn't have the sophistication to run a multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme. Warren Bishop, HR Director. 12 years at Silverstone Capital. Access to personnel files, financial records, keycard systems. Authority to schedule security personnel, to approve after-hours access, to coordinate responses to threats. The perfect position to orchestrate and conceal fraud. Claire kept her voice calm, non-threatening. "Grant, put the gun down. Think about what happens next. Warren Bishop is coming up here personally. Why? Because he needs to control what you say, what you've seen. He's going to make sure nobody talks, including you." Grant's hand wavered, the gun barrel dipping slightly. No, Warren's been helping me. He's the one who told me about the bonus program, about how loyal employees get compensated." "Did he ever tell you where that money came from?" Claire asked softly. "Did he explain that you were being paid with stolen funds? That if this ever came to light, you'd be the first person arrested while he walked away clean?" The elevator dinged. Every head turned toward the rooftop access door. Through the small window, Claire could see the elevator car ascending, floor numbers ticking upward. 37, 38, 39. Grant raised his weapon again, this time pointing it directly at Claire. "You're going to tell Mr. Bishop that this was all a misunderstanding, that you'll delete the files, sign an NDA, and forget everything. Or I will shoot you, and we'll still call it an accident." Claire didn't move, didn't flinch. "You won't." "Yes, I will." Claire said quietly. "You won't. Because you're not a killer, Grant. You're a security guard who got greedy. There's a difference." The elevator reached floor 40. The door opened. Footsteps in the stairwell beyond, slow, measured, ascending the final flight to the rooftop. The rooftop access door swung open. Warren Bishop stepped through, and Claire saw immediately that she'd been wrong about one crucial detail. This wasn't a frightened conspirator coming to contain a crisis. This was a man completely in control, completely confident, who knew exactly what he was doing. Warren Bishop wore an expensive charcoal suit despite the late hour, his silver hair perfectly styled, his expression one of concerned professionalism. He looked like he'd stepped out of a boardroom, not rushing to a rooftop confrontation at midnight. His eyes swept the scene, Grant with gun drawn, 4 nervous guards, Claire standing calm and alert. "Well," Warren said, his voice carrying that same measured tone from the phone call. "This is quite the situation, isn't it?" He walked past Grant without apparent concern for the weapon, moving to stand between the security supervisor and Claire. Up close, Warren was shorter than Claire had remembered, maybe 5'9", slight build, the kind of man who'd succeeded through intelligence rather than physical intimidation. His cologne was subtle and expensive. His hands were uncalloused, manicured, hands that had never done violence themselves, but had ordered plenty of it. "Miss Donovan," Warren said, turning his full attention to her, "I apologize for this misunderstanding. Grant here received some erroneous information about security threats. I'm sure we can resolve this professionally." He glanced at the guards. "Gentlemen, please return to your posts. This is now an HR matter." The guards hesitated. Rivera spoke up. "Sir, with all respect, there's been talk of embezzlement, There's been talk of a lot of things," Warren interrupted smoothly. "Most of it confusion resulting from Miss Donovan accessing files above her authorization level. We'll conduct a proper investigation, but that's not your concern. You're dismissed." Slowly, reluctantly, the four guards moved toward the stairwell door. Claire watched them go, calculating. With them gone, it would be just her, Warren, and Grant. Better odds, numerically. But Warren's confidence bothered her. He wasn't acting like someone caught. He was acting like someone in control. The door closed behind the last guard. Their footsteps faded down the stairs. Warren turned to Grant. "Put the weapon away. We're all adults here." Grant lowered the Glock, confusion evident on his face. "But you said—" "I said many things, Grant. Some of them even true." Warren's smile was pleasant, professional. He turned back to Claire. "Now, Miss Donovan, let's discuss what you think you've found." "Not think," Claire corrected. "Found $47 million stolen over 3 years. Hayes Family Trust Holdings receiving wire transfers from Silverstone Capital accounts. Forged authorization signatures. Nathan Cross's name used without his knowledge or consent." Warren's eyebrows rose slightly. "Nathan Cross? The senior VP?" He seemed genuinely surprised. "Interesting. I hadn't realized the trail pointed to Nathan." The phrasing caught Claire's attention. "You hadn't realized? Not, 'that's false,' or 'Nathan would never.' Just mild surprise at where evidence led." Warren walked to the rooftop ledge, looking out over Seattle's skyline. "Do you know what I like about this city, Miss Donovan? It's built on layers. Native settlements, then logging camps, then the gold rush, then tech boom after tech boom. Each generation builds on top of what came before, burying the previous layer. Sometimes literally. Did you know there's an entire underground city beneath Pioneer Square? Old storefronts, sealed off, forgotten." Claire didn't respond. Warren was deflecting, buying time to think. "Silverstone Capital is the same," Warren continued. "Layers upon layers. Shell companies, subsidiary holdings, partnership agreements. Very few people understand the full structure. Even fewer know where money actually flows." He turned back to face her. "You think you've found evidence of embezzlement, but what you've actually found is evidence that someone wanted you to find." That stopped Claire cold. "What?" Warren's smile widened. "Nathan Cross is a problem. He's been asking questions, requesting audits, making noise about financial irregularities. Very inconvenient. So we've been constructing a case against him. Forged signatures, suspicious transfers, offshore accounts in his name. When it all comes to light, Nathan will be arrested for embezzlement. He'll protest his innocence, but the evidence will be overwhelming." Claire's mind raced. "You're framing him." "I'm protecting the company," Warren corrected. "Nathan was going to expose certain arrangements that benefit Silverstone's major stakeholders. Arrangements that, while technically illegal, serve important purposes. Better to sacrifice one troublesome VP than let him destroy the entire structure. Grant was staring at Warren with dawning horror. "You told me Nathan was stealing. You said we were stopping a criminal." "I told you what you needed to hear," Warren said dismissively. "You're simple, Grant. You see the world in terms of good guys and bad guys. But the real world is more complicated." He looked at Claire. You understand that, don't you, Miss Donovan? You've done complicated work, made difficult choices, gotten your hands dirty for the greater good." Claire's jaw tightened. "I never murdered innocent people." "Neither have I," Warren said calmly. "Nathan Cross isn't innocent. He's naive, which is arguably worse. And you're not innocent either. You hacked our systems, accessed classified files, stole proprietary information. That's corporate espionage. Gathering evidence of fraud isn't espionage. Tell that to our lawyers." Warren pulled out his phone. "Which brings us to the current situation. You have evidence that implicates Nathan Cross. I need that evidence secured so we can proceed with his arrest. In exchange, I'm willing to offer you a very generous severance package and an NDA. You leave Silverstone quietly. We don't press charges for your illegal access. Everyone moves on." Claire didn't respond immediately. She was running calculations, processing what Warren had just revealed. He'd framed Nathan Cross. He'd constructed an entire false trail of evidence, which meant the real embezzlement was even deeper, even more sophisticated than what Claire had found. Hayes Family Trust Holdings wasn't Nathan's account, it was Warren's. "And if I refuse?" Claire asked. Warren's expression didn't change. "Then Grant fulfills his original assignment. You suffer an unfortunate accident. Tragic, really. Young woman, new to the city, working late, overwhelmed by the pressure. These things happen." Grant's hand moved back to his holster. "Warren, you told me this was about security." "It is about security," Warren snapped, his pleasant mask slipping for the first time. "Company security, financial security, my security. $47 million, Grant. That's what's at stake. Do you think I'm going to let one junior analyst destroy that because she got curious?" Claire saw the moment Grant realized he'd been used. Saw the moment he understood that Warren Bishop would throw him aside the moment he became inconvenient. Just like Nathan Cross, just like anyone else who got in the way. T-minus 4 minutes until lockdown. Claire had to stall just a little longer. "How long have you been stealing?" she asked Warren. 3 years, according to records, but I'm guessing longer. Warren's mask was back in place, smooth and controlled. 7 years, since I was promoted to HR director. Do you know what HR has access to, Miss Donovan? Everything. Personnel files, financial records, keycard logs, security protocols. I can see who's investigating what, who's concerned about which irregularities. I can transfer troublesome employees, promote loyal ones, ensure that anyone who gets too curious finds themselves reassigned. And the money? Offshore accounts, obviously. Hayes Family Trust, named after my mother's maiden name, sentimental of me, holds the primary accounts. But there are layers beneath layers, trusts within trusts. By the time investigators trace the full network, I'll be retired in a country with no extradition treaty. Claire forced herself to look defeated, shoulders slumping slightly. 7 years, 47 million. I can't fight that. Warren's smile returned. No, you can't. But you're smart enough to know when to walk away. Sign the NDA. Take the severance. Go live a quiet life somewhere far from here. And Nathan Cross? Nathan Cross will be arrested next week. He'll face trial. probably serve 15 years. Unfortunate, but necessary. Warren pulled a tablet from his jacket pocket, brought up a document. This is a standard NDA with some very generous terms. $200,000 severance payment, immediate vesting of all stock options, positive reference letter. All you have to do is sign and delete your files. Claire took the tablet. The NDA was 60 pages long, dense legal language, but certain phrases jumped out. Agrees to never disclose information regarding financial irregularities. Waives all rights to future legal action. Acknowledges voluntary separation. $200,000. More money than Claire had ever had at once. Enough to start over somewhere new, somewhere safe. She looked up at Warren. If I sign this, what happens to Grant? To those 4 guards? Warren waved dismissively. Grant will continue his employment with appropriate compensation for his discretion. The guards never saw anything that matters. Everyone walks away. Grant's expression suggested he was no longer certain he believed that. Claire held the tablet, stylus poised over the signature line. T-2 minutes. Then she asked the question that had been bothering her since Warren arrived. How did you know I'd found the documents? I didn't tell anyone. I only accessed the files 3 hours ago. Warren's smile turned predatory. Keylogger software on every employee computer, installed 2 years ago under the guise of productivity monitoring. I review flagged searches daily. When you accessed Nathan's signature database and then searched for Hayes Family Trust, my alerts went off immediately. He seemed proud of the system. I knew what you found before you'd finished finding it. And you sent Grant immediately. I sent Grant immediately, Warren confirmed. Unfortunately, I underestimated your capabilities. My fault. I should have reviewed your full background more thoroughly. The Israeli training wasn't in your public file. Claire let the stylus hover over the signature line for another few seconds. Then she set the tablet down on the concrete ledge. No, she said quietly. Warren's expression hardened. Excuse me? No, I won't sign. I won't walk away. And I won't let you destroy Nathan Cross for asking questions. Grant's hand went back to his weapon. Warren held up a hand, stopping him. Miss Donovan, you're making a very poor decision. Maybe, Claire agreed, but it's my decision. You spent 7 years stealing from this company. You framed an innocent man. You ordered my death. I'm not going to let that slide for $200,000 and a promise you'll never keep anyway. Warren's calm finally cracked, his face flushed, jaw clenching. You self-righteous. Do you know what I could have given you? A way out, a clean break, a future. Instead, you choose this? I choose justice, Claire said simply. Justice. Warren laughed, the sound bitter. There's no justice. There's only power. And right now, I have all of it. Behind them, the building's security system beeped. Midnight. Lockdown activated. Every door in the building logged. Every camera activated. Every anomaly flagged for review. Warren's phone buzzed with an alert. He glanced at it and his expression shifted. Surprise, then anger, then something like fear. What did you do? He demanded. Claire smiled for the first time since stepping onto this rooftop. Remember that email you mentioned? The flagged searches you monitor? Well, while Grant was busy threatening me for the past 20 minutes, my encrypted email timer expired. Everything I found, documents, financial trails, evidence of forgery, was just sent to 3 different addresses: the FBI, the SEC, and the Seattle Times investigative desk. Warren went pale. You're bluffing. I'm not. The email was scheduled to send at midnight unless I canceled it. I didn't cancel it. Grant's phone buzzed. Then Warren's. Then both buzzed again. Multiple alerts flooding in. Warren stared at his screen, watching message after message appear. He looked up at Claire, and for the first time, she saw real fear in his eyes. "You destroyed everything," he whispered. "No," Claire corrected. "I exposed everything. There's a difference." The rooftop access door burst open. FBI agent Jennifer Brooks, flanked by 6 tactical agents in full gear, weapons drawn, moved onto the roof with practiced precision. "Warren Bishop," Brooks called out, her voice carrying absolute authority. "Grant Holloway, you're both under arrest. Drop any weapons. Hands where we can see them." Grant dropped his Glock immediately, raising his hands. Warren stood frozen, disbelief and rage warring across his face. Brooks approached Claire, lowering her weapon. "Miss Donovan, are you injured?" "Bruised," Claire replied. "Nothing serious." "Good. We received your email package at 11:59. Financial Crimes Unit has been monitoring Silverstone Capital for 8 months, but we didn't have enough evidence to move until tonight. What you sent us, that's the smoking gun we needed." Warren found his voice. 8 months? You've been investigating systematic embezzlement? Yes, Brooks confirmed. We suspected internal fraud, but the network was too well hidden. Until Miss Donovan here did in 3 hours what we couldn't do in 8 months. She smiled slightly. Turns out hiring someone with military intelligence experience was your mistake, Mr. Bishop. 2 tactical agents moved forward, handcuffing Warren and Grant. Warren was still staring at Claire with something like horror. "You were bait. They sent you here as bait." "No," Claire said. "I came here looking for a normal job. But when I found evidence of fraud, I knew I couldn't ignore it." She thought of her mother, of Lisa Donovan's destroyed life, of the lesson Claire had learned watching good people stay silent while evil flourished. Silence protects the predator, not the prey. Agent Brooks nodded to her team, who began escorting Warren and Grant toward the stairwell. Warren was handcuffed, but still talking, his voice rising. You don't understand. The people I was working with, they'll also be arrested," Brooks interrupted. "Your Hayes family trust accounts, we traced them to 8 different jurisdictions. We have warrants for 12 additional suspects. This is over, Mr. Bishop." As they disappeared down the stairs, Brooks turned back to Claire. "We'll need your full statement. Everything you found, how you found it, every detail." "Of course." Claire picked up Warren's tablet from where she'd set it down, the unsigned NDA still displayed. She handed it to Brooks. "You'll want this too. Attempted obstruction of justice. Witness tampering." Brooks took the tablet, scrolling through the document. 200,000. He really thought you'd take it. "He thought everyone has a price," Claire said quietly. He was wrong. The FBI team worked for another hour, photographing the scene, collecting evidence, interviewing the 4 guards who'd been sent away. Claire gave her statement, sitting on a concrete equipment box, exhaustion finally catching up with her now that the adrenaline was fading. Her shoulder ached. Her knuckles had stopped bleeding, but were starting to bruise. She'd have to ice them tomorrow. If there was a tomorrow after this. If she still had a job. If. "Miss Donovan?" A new voice, tired but kind. Claire looked up to see a man in his late 40s, wearing jeans and a polo shirt despite the midnight hour. He had the rumpled look of someone who'd been pulled out of bed by an urgent call. "I'm Nathan Cross, Senior VP. Agent Brooks called me," said. He stopped, seeming overwhelmed. She said you saved my life. Claire stood. I just found evidence. The FBI did the rest. You found evidence that cleared my name. Nathan's voice was rough with emotion. Warren was framing me. He'd planted documents, false trails, signatures I never made. If you hadn't, if they'd arrested me, he couldn't finish. They didn't, Claire said simply. You're safe. Nathan wiped his eyes. I have 3 daughters. They're 10, 12, and 14. If I'd gone to prison for something I didn't do, he looked at Claire directly. Thank you. That's inadequate, but thank you. Claire nodded. There wasn't really anything to say to that. Sometimes thank you was enough. Sometimes it had to be. Agent Brooks returned, closing her notepad. Miss Donovan, we're finished for tonight. We'll need follow-up interviews over the next few days, but you're free to go. There's an EMT downstairs who should check your injuries. I'm fine, Claire said automatically. You took down a man twice your size and fought off 5 armed guards, Brooks replied dryly. You're getting checked by an EMT. Non-negotiable. Fair enough. As Claire walked toward the stairwell, she paused at the ledge where Grant had placed his Glock at the start of all this. The gun was gone now, bagged as evidence, but the spot where it had rested was still visible. A clean rectangle in the layer of rooftop dust. 40 floors down, emergency vehicles crowded the street. Police cruisers, FBI sedans, an ambulance with lights spinning. People had gathered on sidewalks, looking up at the Silverstone Capitol building, pointing, speculating. Claire thought about her mother, about Lisa Donovan, who'd tried to do the right thing and been destroyed for it, about all the other people who'd found evidence of wrongdoing and stayed silent because speaking up seemed too dangerous, too costly, too impossible. Maybe it was. Maybe silence was the smart choice. Maybe survival mattered more than justice. But Claire had survived. And she'd gotten justice, too. Not perfect justice. 7 years of theft couldn't be undone. And Warren's victims wouldn't get everything back. Nathan Cross would need therapy to process nearly being destroyed by false accusations. Grant Holloway would serve time for his role, despite being manipulated. The 4 guards would have this night haunt them forever. But Warren Bishop would face trial. The money would be frozen, traced, partially recovered. Other victims would come forward now that it was safe. The system would work, imperfectly, but genuinely. It was something. Sometimes, something was enough. You just watched Claire risk everything to expose a 7-year fraud. Grant realized he'd been used as a pawn. Warren's mask finally cracked. But here's the question that matters. If you were one of those 4 guards, hearing evidence of embezzlement and being ordered to commit violence, which side would you choose? Team Claire, Team Warren, or walk away? Drop a comment with your answer. The EMT was a woman in her 30s named Rosa, who'd seen too many late-night emergencies to be impressed by much. She examined Claire's knuckles with professional detachment in the back of the ambulance parked outside Silverstone Capitol's main entrance. 2 a.m. now. The crowd of onlookers had thinned, but not disappeared. Seattle insomniacs and curious neighbors still lingered, phones out, filming the spectacle of FBI agents escorting handcuffed executives from a corporate tower. You'll want to ice these for 20 minutes every few hours, Rosa said, wrapping Claire's right hand. The bruising will get worse before it gets better. You hit something hard. Someone's jaw, Claire replied. Rosa didn't even blink. Yeah, that'll do it. Anything else? Neck pain? Dizziness? Nausea? Just tired. Adrenaline crash. You'll sleep for 12 hours once it hits. Don't fight it. Rosa finished the wrap and handed Claire an ice pack. You're good to go. Try not to punch anyone else for a few days. Claire stepped out of the ambulance into the cool Seattle night. The air smelled of rain. It hadn't fallen yet, but it would soon. Summer storms in the Pacific Northwest came sudden and hard, washing everything clean for a few hours before the heat returned. Agent Brooks was on her phone near one of the FBI sedans, speaking in low, urgent tones. When she saw Claire, she ended the call and walked over. How are you feeling? Like I just fought 5 people on a rooftop, Claire said honestly. Brooks smiled slightly. Fair. Listen, we need to transport you to the field office for a full debrief. It'll take a few hours. Nathan Cross has offered to arrange a hotel room for you afterward. Company's expense, obviously, given that your apartment is technically a crime scene now. Claire blinked. My apartment? Warren Bishop had surveillance installed. We found cameras in your living room and bedroom. He was monitoring you from the start. Brooks's expression turned grim. We're sweeping it now, removing the equipment. You'll need somewhere else to stay for a few days while we process everything. The violation hit Claire harder than the physical confrontation had. Her home, her private space, invaded and watched. Every conversation, every moment of vulnerability, recorded and reviewed by a man who'd been planning her death. We'll get his full surveillance network, Brooks continued. Every device, every recording, every person he had watching. This isn't just about embezzlement anymore. It's conspiracy. It's stalking. It's about a dozen federal charges that'll put him away for decades. Good, Claire managed. A second FBI sedan pulled up, and 2 agents emerged escorting Warren Bishop. He was still handcuffed, his expensive suit rumpled now, his silver hair disheveled. But his eyes found Claire immediately. And even in defeat, there was something calculating in his gaze. Miss Donovan, he called out as the agents guided him past. Before they lock me away, you should know you haven't won anything. You've exposed one piece of a much larger board. Brooks stepped between them. Keep walking, Bishop. But Warren wasn't finished. Hayes Family Trust isn't mine. I'm just the signatory. The beneficial owner. One of the agents shoved him forward, cutting him off, and Warren stumbled toward the waiting vehicle. Before the door closed, he shouted one more thing. Ask about Regina. Ask about the chief financial. The car door slammed, muffling the rest. Brooks turned to Claire, frowning. Regina, does that name mean anything to you? Claire shook her head. I don't know anyone named Regina. Who is she? I'll find out. Brooks pulled out her phone, typing rapidly. If Warren's telling the truth, if he's not the top of this, we need to move fast before anyone else disappears. 30 minutes later, Claire sat in an FBI interrogation room that didn't look like the ones in movies. No two-way mirror, no harsh lighting, no intimidation tactics. Just a conference room with comfortable chairs, coffee that was surprisingly decent, and Agent Brooks with a laptop and a stack of file folders. Regina Castellano, Brooks said, pulling up a personnel file on her screen and turning it so Claire could see. Chief Financial Officer of Silverstone Capital, 56 years old, MBA from Wharton, 30 years in finance. She's been with Silverstone for 14 years, promoted to CFO 8 years ago. The photo showed a striking woman with dark hair swept into an elegant updo, sharp cheekbones and eyes that conveyed absolute competence. She wore a navy suit and a subtle smile that didn't quite reach those eyes. Claire studied the image. I've never met her. Junior analysts don't interact with C-suite executives. But she would have access to everything Warren had and more, Brooks said. As CFO, she controls all financial reporting, approves major transactions, oversees accounting. If Warren was running an embezzlement scheme, he'd need someone above him providing cover and authorization. Or, Claire said slowly, Warren wasn't running anything at all. He was middle management. Regina Castellano was the real architect. Brooks nodded. That's what we're thinking. Warren's too obvious. He got sloppy, left trails. But if he was following orders, executing a plan someone else designed, then Regina is the real target, Claire finished. Brooks's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression changed, surprise shifting quickly to anger. We sent agents to Regina Castellano's house in Madison Park. She's gone. Cleaned out her home office, disabled security cameras, left her car in the garage. Neighbors saw a black town car pick her up around 11:30 p.m., 20 minutes after Warren was arrested. She ran, Claire said. She ran, Brooks confirmed. Which means she knew about the rooftop confrontation, knew about your evidence, knew we were coming. Warren must have warned her. Claire's mind replayed the rooftop scene. Warren on his phone multiple times. The call to Grant that had seemed like micromanagement, but could have been coordination with someone higher up. His confidence even when cornered, as if he knew he had a fallback position. He was buying her time, Claire realized. Every minute he kept me on that rooftop, every delay, he was giving Regina a chance to escape. Brooks stood abruptly. We need to find her before she leaves the country. Financial Crimes Unit is working with TSA, monitoring private airfields. But if she has resources, and $47 million suggests she does, she might already be gone. There's another option, Claire said quietly. Brooks looked at her. She might not run. She might come back for the evidence. It was a gamble, but Claire had been trained to think like targets, to anticipate their moves. Regina Castellano had spent 8 years building this network. That kind of person didn't abandon everything on panic. That kind of person calculated risk, weighed options, and took decisive action. Brooks considered this. You think she'd risk coming back? I think she'd risk anything to protect $47 million, Claire said. And I think she's arrogant enough to believe she can still control the situation. Then we use that. Brooks pulled out her phone again, dialing. Carter? It's Brooks. I need a trap set at Silverstone Capital. Full surveillance. Plainclothes agents, minimal visible presence. The CFO might come back to secure evidence. She paused, listening. Yes, I know it's 2:30 a.m. Do it anyway. After she hung up, Brooks turned back to Claire. This is irregular, but would you be willing to help? If Regina does come back, she might approach you directly. Try to negotiate, threaten, or buy your silence like Warren attempted. Claire thought about the ice pack Rosa had given her, still cold against her bruised knuckles. Thought about her apartment, violated by surveillance. Thought about her mother, destroyed by people like Regina Castellano, who believed laws were suggestions for other people. Yes, she said. I'll help. They set the trap carefully. Claire would return to her office at Silverstone Capital, escorted by undercover agents posing as cleaning crew, surrounded by hidden surveillance, wired with both audio recording equipment and a panic button that would bring FBI tactical teams within seconds. If Regina appeared, Claire would engage her in conversation, gather evidence, and signal when law enforcement should move. It was dangerous. Regina Castellano might not come alone. She might be armed. She might be desperate enough to eliminate Claire permanently. But it was also the best chance to end this completely. 4 a.m. Claire sat at her cubicle on the 35th floor, the same desk where she'd discovered the transfer document that started everything. The office was dark except for her desk lamp and the ambient glow from computer screens in sleep mode. Outside the windows, Seattle was still mostly asleep, the skyline a pattern of lit and dark buildings against the pre-dawn gray. Agent Brooks was positioned in the server room 2 floors down with a tactical team. 3 undercover agents, dressed as janitors, moved through the 35th floor, maintaining the illusion of late-night cleaning while staying close enough to reach Claire in seconds. Claire's phone sat on her desk, recording audio, live streaming video to FBI command. She waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. Claire reviewed financial documents on her screen, letting the mundane work calm her nerves. Transfer reports, account reconciliations, the same tedious numbers that had occupied her before. The elevator dinged. Claire's hand moved closer to the panic button hidden under her keyboard. She didn't look up from her screen, didn't react, just kept typing as footsteps approached across the carpeted floor. "Miss Donovan." The voice was cultured, calm, carrying that particular authority of someone accustomed to boardrooms and corner offices. Claire looked up to see Regina Castellano standing at the entrance to her cubicle. The CFO wore black slacks and a charcoal blazer, her dark hair pulled back severely, her expression unreadable. She carried a leather briefcase in one hand. "Miss Castellano," Claire said, her voice steady, "this is unexpected." "I imagine so." Regina glanced around the empty office, noting the darkness, the silence. "Working late, or couldn't sleep?" "FBI suggested I stay away from my apartment for a few days. Thought I'd catch up on work." Regina smiled slightly. "I saw the news. Warren Bishop arrested for embezzlement, conspiracy, attempted murder. Quite dramatic. You must be relieved." "I am. Though I suspect you're also wondering if the story is complete." Regina moved into the cubicle, setting her briefcase on Claire's desk. "Warren made quite a spectacle on that rooftop. Very theatrical. But Warren always did enjoy the attention." Claire kept her expression neutral. "You're saying he acted alone?" "I'm saying Warren Bishop is exactly the kind of middle manager who'd steal from his employer if he thought he could get away with it." Regina opened her briefcase, pulling out a tablet. "What I'm curious about, Miss Donovan, is what exactly you sent to the FBI. What evidence you compiled in those 3 hours of research?" "Everything I found. Transfer documents, offshore accounts, forged signatures." "Specifically," Regina interrupted, "did you trace the beneficial ownership of Hayes Family Trust holdings beyond the first layer?" Claire held her gaze. "No, I didn't have time." Regina seemed to relax slightly. "Then you don't know about the trust structure beneath Hayes Family Trust, the subsidiary accounts, the secondary beneficiaries." She pulled up a document on her tablet, showing a complex flowchart of corporate entities. "This is what Warren built, or rather what I instructed him to build. 7 years of careful architecture, designed to obscure money flow." You," Claire said flatly. "Me," Regina agreed. "Regina Hayes Castellano. My maiden name was Hayes. The family trust was established by my grandmother in 1963. Perfectly legitimate. Over the years, I've used it as an umbrella for various investments and, yes, compensation for my work that Silverstone's board wouldn't officially approve." "You call embezzlement compensation?" Regina's expression hardened. "I call it earning what I'm worth." "Do you know what the CEO of Silverstone Capital makes annually, Miss Donovan? $4.2 million. I run the entire financial operation, accounting, reporting, audits, compliance. Yet my official salary is $800,000, less than a fifth of what the CEO earns." "So you decided to take the difference," Claire said. I decided to be compensated fairly. $47 million over 7 years, approximately $6.7 million annually. The board would never approve such compensation for a woman, particularly a woman of color. So I created my own approval process. Regina sat in the guest chair across from Claire's desk, crossing her legs with elegant precision. You've just heard Regina admit to $47 million in theft, justified as fair compensation. Warren was middle management. Grant was a pawn. But if Regina has this much control over Silverstone's finances, if she's been orchestrating this for 7 years, then what evidence would Claire need to absolutely lock the case before Regina walks away or disappears? Think about it. Keylogger trails, wire authorizations, or maybe something bigger? The final answer is coming right now. Claire processed this carefully. Regina wasn't denying anything. She was rationalizing, which meant she believed she had leverage. "Why are you telling me this?" Claire asked. "Because Warren's arrest changes nothing." Regina pulled a second document from her briefcase, a contract printed on heavy paper. "The FBI has evidence against Warren. They'll prosecute him successfully. But they don't have evidence against me. The trail stops at Hayes Family Trust, and that trust is legally mine. No forgery, no stolen identity. The wire transfers were authorized by my position as CFO. I have signing authority for all transactions over $5 million. Every transfer was technically legal." Regina slid the contract across the desk. "What the FI doesn't have is proof that I personally benefited. Without evidence of personal enrichment, they can't prosecute." Claire glanced at the contract without picking it up. "And this is an employment agreement. Effective immediately, you're promoted to Senior Financial Analyst, reporting directly to me. Salary $300,000 annually, full benefits, stock options. Your first assignment is to provide testimony that Warren Bishop acted without authorization, that he falsified documents and manipulated systems. You'll confirm that I cooperated with your investigation, that I was unaware of his activities. You want me to lie to the FBI. I want you to contextualize the truth," Regina corrected smoothly. "Warren did falsify documents, factually accurate. He did manipulate systems without proper authorization, also true. The only question is whether he did so independently or under direction. I'm asking you to confirm the independent theory." Claire looked at the contract. $300,000, more than triple her current salary. Financial security, career advancement. All it would cost was her integrity. "What happens if I refuse?" Claire asked. Regina's expression remained pleasant, but her eyes went cold. "Then I make a phone call. Within 6 hours, every major financial institution in Seattle receives an anonymous tip that you're under investigation for corporate espionage. Your military background will work against you. Former contractor with questionable ethics, now engaged in illegal activity. You'll be blacklisted before noon. The FBI would protect me." "The FBI would try," Regina interrupted. "But I have 30 years of connections in finance, regulatory agencies, and legal circles. I can make your life very difficult. Or," she tapped the contract, "you can accept this generous offer and move forward." Claire felt that familiar cold calculation settle over her, the same mental state that had carried her through hostile territory and complex operations. Regina was offering a devil's bargain. The threat wasn't subtle, cooperate or be destroyed. But Regina had made one critical mistake. She'd admitted everything while sitting in Claire's cubicle, on camera, with FBI agents listening to every word. Claire picked up the contract, pretending to read while her finger moved beneath the desk to press the panic button. 3 quick taps, the signal for agents to move, but not burst in immediately. She needed Regina to keep talking. "This contract," Claire said slowly, "would require me to commit perjury in a federal investigation. You understand that, right?" "I understand that you'll be describing events as you genuinely interpreted them," Regina replied. "Warren Bishop was your primary contact. You never met with me. From your perspective, he appeared to be acting with authority. That's not perjury. That's testimony. And the $300,000? Compensation for your analytical skills, which are clearly exceptional. Silverstone would be foolish not to retain talent like yours." Regina leaned forward, her voice taking on an almost maternal warmth. "Claire? May I call you Claire? You're 28 years old. You have your entire career ahead of you. Don't throw it away trying to be a hero. Heroes in corporate America don't get rewarded. They get fired, blacklisted, and forgotten." "Like my mother," Claire said quietly. Regina paused. "Excuse me? My mother, Lisa Donovan. She was a financial auditor in Portland 20 years ago. She discovered her boss was running a Ponzi scheme. She reported it. She testified. She did everything right." Claire's voice remained steady, emotionless. "They destroyed her, sued her, blacklisted her, harassed her until she had a breakdown. She died when I was 19. Heart attack. Technically." Regina's expression shifted, calculation replacing warmth. "I'm sorry for your loss, but that proves my point, doesn't it? Your mother sacrificed everything and gained nothing. You could choose differently." "I could," Claire agreed. "But I won't." Regina's eyes narrowed. "You're refusing my offer?" "I'm refusing to help you escape justice." Claire stood, and as she did, the janitors in the background dropped their cleaning supplies and revealed FBI badges. 3 agents converged on Regina's position, weapons drawn. "Regina Castellano," Agent Brooks's voice came from the cubicle entrance. "You're under arrest for embezzlement, money laundering, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering." Regina didn't move, didn't panic. She simply closed her briefcase and stood with dignified composure. "I want my attorney." "You'll have that opportunity," Brooks confirmed. 2 agents moved forward with handcuffs. "But first, let's discuss that conversation we just recorded. Every admission, every threat, every detail of your scheme." Regina's mask finally cracked. "You recorded. That's entrapment. That's law enforcement," Brooks corrected. "Miss Donovan has been cooperating with FBI since Warren Bishop's arrest. We've had surveillance on you since midnight. When you returned to Silverstone Capital and approached a witness, you gave us everything we needed." The agents cuffed Regina's wrists behind her back. She looked at Claire with an expression mixing hatred and grudging respect. "You played me. I documented evidence," Claire replied. "There's a difference." As they led Regina toward the elevator, she called back. "Warren was right about one thing. This is bigger than me. Follow the money far enough, and you'll find—" The elevator doors closed, cutting off whatever revelation she'd been about to make. Brooks turned to Claire, exhaling heavily. "That was risky. If she'd been armed—" "She wasn't," Claire said. "Regina Castellano isn't the type to get her hands dirty with violence. She hires people like Warren and Grant for that." She glanced at her desk. "Did you secure her briefcase?" "Already bagged as evidence." Brooks checked messages. "Financial Crimes Unit is executing search warrants on Regina's home, office, and safety deposit boxes. We'll have the full offshore network mapped by noon." "What about Nathan Cross?" Claire asked. "He was being framed. Is he clear?" "Completely. We've already notified him that all charges are dropped. He's planning to come in this morning." Brooks looked at Claire with admiration. "You saved his life." Regina's plan was to have Nathan arrested next week. She'd already planted evidence, prepared witnesses. If you hadn't found those documents when you did, Nathan would be in prison and Regina would be richer, Claire finished. 47 million richer, Brooks corrected. The 8.2 you found was just this quarter's transfer. We're finding evidence of systematic theft going back 7 years. A thought occurred to Claire. She said something. Warren did too. This is bigger than me. What did they mean? Brooks hesitated. We're looking into that. Regina's offshore accounts show wire transfers continuing beyond her control, money flowing to other entities. We think Silverstone Capital might have been one target in a larger network of corporate embezzlement. Organized crime? Corporate crime. Financial Crimes Unit has the lead, and they'll trace every connection. For now, you've done more than enough. Brooks closed her notepad. Hotel room is waiting. Nathan Cross arranged a suite at the Fairmont Olympic. 2 weeks, all expenses covered. The adrenaline was fading, leaving Claire exhausted. She'd been awake for nearly 24 hours. Her body was demanding rest. I need to sleep, she said simply. Claire collected her belongings and walked toward the elevator. As she passed the window overlooking Seattle, dawn was breaking, soft pink and gold spreading across the eastern sky. The city was waking up, oblivious to the drama that had played out while it slept. $47 million recovered. 2 criminals arrested. 1 innocent man cleared. But Claire couldn't shake the feeling that something was still incomplete. Warren's warning, Regina's cut-off statement, follow the money, suggested layers they hadn't uncovered yet. Tomorrow, she'd think about that. Tonight, she'd sleep. The Fairmont Olympic Hotel was everything Claire's budget apartment wasn't. Elegant, spacious, with a bed so soft it felt like floating. She showered, then collapsed into sleep so deep and dreamless that when she woke, she genuinely didn't know where she was. Her phone showed 2:30 p.m. She'd slept nearly 10 hours. 53 missed messages. Agent Brooks. Final debrief scheduled for 6 p.m. today. Nathan Cross. Thank you again. Happy to meet whenever convenient. Unknown number. Miss Donovan, this is Special Agent Harrison from Financial Crimes Unit. Need to discuss additional findings. And one message that made Claire pause. Unknown number. The building wasn't just yours, JM. JM Claire didn't know anyone with those initials. She ran the phone number through a reverse lookup. No results. Probably a burner phone. The building wasn't just yours. What building? Silverstone Capital, her apartment? She filed it away as probably spam, then responded to Agent Brooks confirming the 6 p.m. meeting. She had 3 hours. The hotel had provided clothing. Nathan Cross's assistant had called ahead with Claire's measurements. Jeans, a clean blouse, comfortable shoes. Claire dressed and ventured down to the hotel restaurant early. Nathan Cross arrived first, at 5:45 p.m. He looked better than at 2 a.m. on a rooftop, showered, shaved, wearing casual clothes. He spotted Claire and walked over with a tentative smile. Miss Donovan, thank you for agreeing to meet. Claire, please, she gestured to the booth. And thank you for the hotel room. Nathan slid into the opposite seat. It's the least I could do. Claire, I don't know if Agent Brooks told you the full extent of Regina's plan. She'd been building a case against me for 6 months. Fake signatures, planted emails, manufactured evidence. Next week, she was going to present it all to the board and have me arrested. I'm sorry you went through that. My wife thought I was having a breakdown. My daughters were scared. If you hadn't found that evidence, I'd be in a cell right now. Nathan pulled an envelope from his jacket. I wanted to give you something from me personally. Call it gratitude. Claire opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $100,000. She stared at it. Nathan, I can't accept this. You can and you will, Nathan interrupted firmly. You lost your apartment, your sense of safety, nearly your life. 100,000 is inadequate, but it's what I can offer. Please, let me do this. This wasn't a bribe. This was genuine gratitude from a man saved from destruction. Thank you, she said finally. This is incredibly generous. It's survival money. You'll need time to process everything, decide what you want to do next. He paused. Have you thought about your future? Silverstone's board has asked me to offer you any position you want. Senior analyst, audit team lead, compliance director, name it. Before Claire could answer, Agent Brooks arrived, sliding into the booth. She looked tired, but satisfied. Nathan? Claire. Brooks nodded. Sorry I'm late. FBI bureaucracy. She pulled out her tablet. I wanted to brief you both on where we are. As of 4 p.m. today, Regina Castellano and Warren Bishop have both been formally charged. Regina faces 63 counts. Warren faces 48. Grant Holloway and the 4 security guards are cooperating. And the money? Nathan asked. $47.2 million recovered and frozen. About $32 million is immediately recoverable. The rest is tangled in legal complexity, but Silverstone will eventually get most of it back. Brooks swiped to another screen. More interesting is what we found in Regina's personal files. Evidence of similar schemes at 3 other companies over her 30-year career. She's done this before, Claire realized. Multiple times. Regina gets hired as CFO, spends 3 to 5 years building elaborate theft systems, then moves to a new company before anyone catches her. We estimate she's stolen over $200 million across her career. Brooks looked at Claire. If you hadn't found those documents, she'd have moved on. We'd never have caught her. 200 million. The number was staggering. Which brings me to why I wanted this meeting, Brooks continued. The FBI would like to offer Claire a position as a consultant with Financial Crimes Unit. Contract work, flexible hours, essentially doing what she did at Silverstone, analyzing complex financial systems, finding hidden theft, building prosecution cases. Claire's coffee had gone cold. You want me to hunt corporate criminals. We want you to do what you're clearly exceptional at, Brooks said. You have a rare combination of skills, financial analysis, tactical operations background, instinct for patterns. People like Regina are sophisticated and extremely hard to catch. We need people who think like them. I came to Seattle to get away from that life, Claire said. The operations, the investigations, the violence. I wanted something normal. And look how that worked out, Brooks replied sympathetically. Claire, I don't think you're built for normal. I think you're built for this. The question is whether you're ready to accept that. Nathan spoke up. Whatever you decide, Silverstone still wants you. The board met this morning and unanimously voted to offer you Senior Director of Compliance. Newly created position with full authority to investigate suspicious activity directly to the board and regulators. Salary $400,000. Full executive benefits. You'd have the power to catch people like Regina before they steal millions. $400,000. FBI consultant fees. $100,000 from Nathan. Money wasn't a concern anymore. The question was, what did she want to do? Before Claire could respond, her phone buzzed. The same unknown number. The building wasn't just yours. Check Silverstone's board of directors, specifically Judith Morrison, JM. Claire frowned. Agent Brooks, who's Judith Morrison? Brooks pulled up her tablet. Judith Morrison, board member at Silverstone Capital. Appointed 4 years ago. Background in private equity. Why? I just received a message telling me to check her specifically. Claire showed Brooks the phone. Brooks's expression shifted immediately to alert concern. Who sent this? Unknown number. Burner phone. Nathan leaned forward. Judith Morrison joined the board right before Regina's embezzlement accelerated. She's been quiet. Doesn't participate much in meetings. I always thought she was just collecting board fees. Brooks was already making calls, stepping away. Claire heard fragments. Need full background check. Financial records. Connection to Castellano. 10 minutes later, Brooks returned with bad news. Judith Morrison hasn't been seen since yesterday morning. Her assistant says she called in sick, but neighbors report seeing movers at her house loading boxes into a truck. Her passport was flagged at SeaTac Airport. She tried to board a flight to Singapore this morning but was turned away. She's in the wind. She ran, Claire said. She ran. Financial records show wire transfers from Regina's offshore accounts to entities controlled by Morrison. If Regina was stealing $47 million, Morrison might have been her partner or superior. Brooks sat down heavily. This case keeps getting bigger. Nathan looked stunned. You're saying the board member who was supposed to oversee Regina was actually helping her steal? Or directing her? Brooks said grimly. We won't know until we find Morrison. But Claire, she turned, whoever sent you that message knows something we don't. They're trying to help, but anonymously. That suggests insider knowledge. Someone at Silverstone who's aware of the corruption but can't come forward publicly. Claire reread the message. The building wasn't just yours. Not the building. The board. The power structure. The implication that Claire wasn't the only target. That Silverstone's problems went beyond Regina and Warren. I need to go back, Claire said suddenly. Both Brooks and Nathan looked at her. Back to Silverstone. To my desk, my files, my access. If there's another layer, if Judith Morrison was involved, I need to analyze the data from a new angle. Claire, you've done enough, Nathan started. No, Claire interrupted. I've stopped 2 criminals. But if there's a third, if the board itself is compromised, then Silverstone needs to know. Brooks considered this. You'd be consulting for FBI officially. Full protection, full support. But you'd be exposed again if word gets out. Then we don't let word get out, Claire said. I go back as a senior analyst, Nathan's offer, and quietly do the investigation as FBI consultation. Nobody knows except us. Nathan nodded. I can make that work. Officially, you're helping rebuild compliance. Unofficially, you are hunting whoever sent that message. It was risky. It was exactly the kind of complicated undercover work Claire had tried to leave behind. But it was necessary. Because Regina had admitted, this was bigger than her, bigger than Silverstone. Someone had taught Regina how to steal. Someone had provided the sophisticated network structure. Someone was still out there. I'll do it, Claire said. On 2 conditions. First, I want full access, no restrictions, complete authority to examine any record. Second, if I find evidence of more board involvement, the FBI moves immediately. Brooks extended her hand. Deal. Welcome to Financial Crimes Unit, Consultant Donovan. They shook. Nathan pulled out his phone to message the board. Claire felt the familiar weight of purpose settling over her shoulders. She'd come to Seattle for a normal life. Instead, she'd found exactly what her mother had found. Corruption at the highest levels, protected by money and power. But unlike her mother, Claire had backup. She had FBI resources. She had Nathan's support. She had skills Lisa Donovan never possessed. This time, maybe justice would win. 3 months later, Claire sat in a federal courtroom watching Regina Castellanos' trial. The prosecution had built an overwhelming case: financial records, Warren's testimony, emails, and Claire's account of the rooftop confrontation and attempted bribery. Regina's defense argued coercion by board pressures, that her compensation demands were reasonable, that any theft resulted from corporate failures rather than individual criminal intent. The jury deliberated for 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on 58 of 63 counts. Regina Castellano was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Warren Bishop received 12 years. Grant Holloway received 3 years. The 4 security guards received probation. Nathan Cross stood beside Claire as sentences were read. His daughters were in school, but his wife sat in the gallery, relief evident. The nightmare was over. Nathan's name was cleared. "Justice," Nathan murmured. "Something like it," Claire agreed. Afterward, Agent Brooks pulled Claire aside. "We found Judith Morrison." Claire had been waiting. "Where?" "Morocco. Extradition is complicated, but she's in custody." "And Claire, you were right. Morrison wasn't just a board member. She's part of a network, a group who've been systematically infiltrating corporations for 2 decades. Regina was one of their operators. We're looking at potentially 50 companies compromised, billions stolen." "Billions? How long have you known?" Claire asked. "Officially, since Morrison's arrest 2 weeks ago. Unofficially, Financial Crimes has suspected something like this for years. Your investigation broke it open." Brooks handed Claire a folder. "There's a briefing tomorrow at FBI headquarters. You're invited." Claire took the folder. Inside were photos of dozens of executives, board members, CFOs, all connected by red lines. At the center was Judith Morrison. "This will take years to prosecute," Claire said. "Yes, but it starts now with the foundation you built." Brooks smiled slightly. "You're good at this, Claire. Better than anyone I've worked with. Have you thought about making it permanent?" Claire had thought about it. About the 100,000 from Nathan, about the 400,000 salary as compliance director, which she'd accepted and held for 3 months now. About her mother. About Lisa Donovan, who'd died fighting people like Regina and Morrison. About whether Claire's skills could prevent other daughters from losing their mothers. "I'm thinking about it," Claire said honestly. They parted on the courthouse steps. Claire walked back toward Silverstone's offices, planning to finish a compliance report. It was mundane work, exactly what she'd wanted. But now she understood that mundane work was how systems got corrupted. Somebody had to watch, to question, to investigate. Somebody had to be willing to fight on rooftops against 5 armed men. Somebody had to refuse bribes and threats. Her phone buzzed. The unknown number again. "You did good work. More coming. Chicago office of Meridian Financial. Check the CFO. JM." Claire stared. JM Judith Morrison? No, impossible. Morrison was in custody. Then who? She typed back. "Who are you?" No response. After 5 minutes, the number showed disconnected. Claire stood on the sidewalk, folder in hand, city noise flowing around her. Someone out there was feeding her information, pointing her toward corruption. Someone with inside knowledge. An ally. Or a manipulator using Claire as a weapon. She'd have to figure out which. Chicago. Meridian Financial. Another company. Another CFO. Another theft network waiting to be exposed. Claire could ignore it. Focus on Silverstone, collect her salary, live comfortably. Or she could do what she was apparently built for: hunt the predators who hid behind corporate structures and laws designed to protect them. She thought of her mother one last time, thought of Lisa Donovan's badge, carried in Claire's purse every day, thought of the lesson her mother had tried to teach even as it destroyed her. Silence protects the predator, not the prey. Claire pulled out her phone and called Brooks. "Brooks? It's Claire. I got another tip. Chicago, Meridian Financial. Want to take a look?" She could hear the smile in Brooks's voice. "Absolutely. I'll set up surveillance. Can you travel tomorrow?" "Tomorrow works." As Claire ended the call and walked toward Silverstone's building, she caught her reflection in the glass doors. Not a delivery girl anymore. Not just an analyst. Something else entirely. A hunter. A protector. Someone who'd learned that 5 against 1 were finally fair odds. The city stretched around her, full of buildings and businesses and people working ordinary jobs, unaware of the corruption flowing through foundations, unaware of the silent battles fought by women who'd been underestimated their whole lives. But they'd learn. Eventually, they'd all learn. Because Claire Donovan was done being silent. Done being underestimated. Done letting predators win. Regina Castellano had been right about one thing. This was bigger than her, bigger than Silverstone, bigger than any single corporation. And now Claire knew exactly how big. Knew what she was up against. Knew what it would take to fight it. Somewhere in Chicago, a CFO was stealing. Somewhere in the corporate world, criminals were hiding behind spreadsheets. Somewhere, people like her mother were being destroyed for trying to speak truth. But now they had Claire. They had someone who could fight back, who knew how to find evidence and build cases and stand on rooftops against impossible odds. 5 against 1? Finally, fair odds. Claire stood there for a long moment, watching the city pulse with life. Somewhere above her, on the 40th floor of Silverstone Capitol, there was a rooftop where she'd fought for her life just 3 months ago, where Grant Holloway had placed a gun on the ledge and thought he had all the power, where Regina Castellano's carefully constructed empire had started to crumble. That rooftop was empty now, cleaned, reset, ready for the next corporate event, the next summer party, the next group of employees who'd never know what had happened there. But Claire knew. She'd always know. She reached into her purse and pulled out her mother's old ID badge. Lisa Donovan, financial auditor, dated 20 years ago. The plastic was worn, the photo faded, but the eyes in that picture were the same as Claire's, determined, hopeful, believing that truth mattered more than consequences. Her mother had lost that fight, but she'd taught Claire how to win it. Claire's phone buzzed one more time. Not the mysterious JM number. That had gone silent. This was Agent Brooks. "Chicago team is assembling. We move in 72 hours. Your flight leaves tomorrow at 7 a.m. First class this time. You've earned it." First class? Federal protection. A team of agents. Resources her mother never had. Support Lisa Donovan had been denied. The cycle was breaking. Slowly, imperfectly, but breaking. Claire slipped the badge back into her purse, next to her FBI consultant credentials and her Silverstone security pass. 3 identities, 3 roles, all serving the same purpose. Making sure that people like Regina Castellano, Warren Bishop, and Judith Morrison couldn't hide anymore. making sure that daughters didn't lose their mothers to corruption and silence, making sure that when someone discovered the truth, they had backup. She thought about Chicago, about the unknown CFO there who probably felt invincible, protected by layers of corporate structure and legal complexity, who probably had no idea that a woman with bruised knuckles and a dead mother's badge was coming for them. They'd learn soon enough. Claire Donovan walked into Silverstone Capital's lobby, badge in hand, ready for another day of mundane compliance work that wasn't mundane at all, ready to find the next thread, pull the next string, expose the next network. The security guard at the desk nodded as she passed. "Morning, Miss Donovan." "Morning, James." Just another employee. Just another day. Just another analyst doing her job. Except she wasn't just anything. Not anymore. She was the woman who'd stood on a rooftop against 5 armed men and walked away. The woman who'd refused $200,000 to stay silent. The woman who'd trapped a CFO with nothing but patience and a hidden camera. She was her mother's daughter, and her mother's fight had finally found someone who could win it. The elevator doors closed. Claire pressed the button for the 35th floor. Above her, 40 floors up, that rooftop waited in silence. Below her, in evidence lockers and courtrooms and FBI databases, the proof of justice served. And ahead of her, in Chicago and beyond, the next battle. Fair odds at last.
You are not alone. Someone wants to hear you. Share your story. Thank you for watching to the end. Please like and subscribe to Stereo.